Just the way it goes. Just the way it goes. Degrees.
The Tainted Glove presents Yumper and Svo at the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Oh, what a big man you are! Hey, let me buy you a pack of gum. I'll show you how to chew it. Ooh.
And Justin Svo Svoboda.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Welcome everyone to episode 2 of season 2 of Yumper and Svo at the Show. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Justin Svo Svoboda.
I got no audio. Hold on.
Oh, we got a audio issue here. Oh man.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So let's start all over. So welcome everyone to Yumper and Svo at the Show, season 2, episode 2, presented to you by a Tainted Glove. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Garcia, aka Yumper, and with my other co-host, Justin Svo Svoboda. How you doing, Mr. Svoboda?
Yump, I am good, and a happy anniversary to you.
Happy anniversary to you too.
Today is the first day that Yumper and I hung out in person. We went and met up at Kuma, so today is a good day.
For sure. A great song too. Today was a good day.
Yeah.
But Svo, yeah, thank you so much, Baloney. We appreciate that. Audible. Yes, we had Audible. But we got a action-packed show for you. I have a shitload of notes, and Swo's got a lot of things to say. Shane was tuning in from Disney World. Shane, we really appreciate you tuning in.
Spag, I need you to have a Dole Whip for me if you don't mind.
But with that, Svo, let's get into what we were watching this week. So, what were you watching?
So I went to the movies and I saw Megan. And the other night, the wife and I had, we put our phones on D&D, and we watched You People on Netflix. I really liked one of these movies. I really enjoyed You People. I thought Megan was kind of lame. But, it is what it is, right? It's a movie about an android robot. And I don't trust anything that doesn't run on iOS. So, but You People I thought was funny. I know you had some different opinions about it, Yump.
Yeah, so first of all, with Megan, I heard some mixed reviews about it. My brother actually went and saw it. He said it wasn't that bad. It's creepy how she looks like one of the Olsen twins. Which when I saw it, I thought like they were making fun of the Olsen twins. But with You People, me and my wife watched it. I really couldn't get into it. I love the music. I love the scenery. I just couldn't get into the humor. Like, I think they were trying a little too hard to push Eddie Murphy as like a really extreme pro-African American character, which is cool, but it was like a little too over the top for me to like. So I really couldn't get the humor there.
Okay.
But I do like I said, I do like the music and aspect of it, the cultural aspect of the stuff they talk about.
So I think for me, that's where it was really, really enjoyable. It was a movie about hip hop and sneaker culture, which are two things that I love very, very much. They met and they went out shopping and they wore the matching Witherspoon Air Max 97s. They went to a bunch of galleries in LA. And there was a really cool little tribute there when they first met, and he thought she was an Uber driver. And they're driving down, they're driving through California, and Nipsey Hussle came on. And that was Lauren London's, that was her husband. They were married and they have kids together. And it was a really nice tribute to the late Nipsey Hussle. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I get it. There were some things that felt forced. like Eddie Murphy's like militancy. But I really really enjoyed it, and I like Lauren London.
Yeah, yeah, I like Lauren London too. I'll have to give it another watch. Like Jen, I didn't completely finish all of it because I was doing other things, but Jen finished it through, and she said there was more comedic stuff that came up later. So I'll probably give it another watch.
Yeah, I would definitely. What about you, Yump? What have you been watching?
So the first movie I watched this week was an old classic. You know, everybody's talking about Brandon Fraser and The Whale, so I went to his probably his best movie, Encino Man. No, Encino Man is one of my favorite movies. I love that movie with Pauly Shore as Stoney and Sean Astin. Who, even though I don't like Sean Astin, like his character is hilarious in there as well. You know, having him come out, it's such a crazy premise of having a caveman come out of being frozen and basically coming back, and they're basically getting him up to date with the real world, you know, as of when he was a, comes back from wheezing on the juice. Yes, that part is hilarious. Um,
I no,
and
I have another question based on this, and I'm learning something here. You don't like Sean Astin?
no, he's my least favorite character from the Goonies by far.
Okay. Hey, I'm not
Yeah,
mad at it. I've never heard that take before. Like Sean
yeah.
Astin's usually like universally loved.
I'm just not a big fan. Like I didn't like him in. I don't. You know, I don't like Rudy. Like I don't like him in
Well,
Rudy. I think
no
he.
one likes Rudy because no one likes Notre Dame.
Shane's gonna be upset. I
That
just didn't
was
like.
that was
Like he.
specifically for Shane.
Yeah, the cheese is old and moldy. Yes. Um, I didn't like him in he was okay in Stranger Things. I don't know, something about him. Like he's okay. I don't hate him. I'm not a really big fan. But on top of that, I took Fidz's advice, and me and Jen actually watched Everything Everywhere All at Once with Michelle Yeoh and Q Wan and Stephanie Su, you know, along with James Hong, who I love from, of course, Big Trouble in Little China, and Jamie Lee Curtis. It was actually a first of all, it's a movie that blows your damn mind. Like me and Jen were like, "What the hell are we watching?" A lot of Matrix vibes in it I got from it, and I got a lot of sense from a lot of, Hong Kong action films. It made me think of Black Mask a lot with Jet Li, but I liked it a lot. I thought it had a lot of humor. I thought the story was cool, and I can see why it's nominated for an Oscar.
So last night at like 8 o'clock, I got a text from my nephew Brian, who's been on the show, and we he was like, "Yo, Uncle Justin, like you gotta watch this movie. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not." And like I started it before when it first came out, but I didn't finish it. He's like, "You gotta watch Everything Everywhere All at Once." And he was like, "Even Aunt Kelly's gonna like it. Like you're gonna really really enjoy it." Um, and I have some thoughts, and if I can get on my soapbox here for a minute, Yump, I know like the multiverses in the new universe, like all that stuff is very very much like the new time travel, like that's how they want to approach things. But I feel like Austin Powers, in the first movie when they start talking about cross universes,
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
like, I just lose it. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so fucking confusing." Like, I was able to handle it with Spider-Man when they brought Toby and they brought Andrew in, and I get it, but, like, the movie visually is absolutely beautiful. I enjoyed it. When she starts jumping universes and, like, figuring out all these skill sets from the other universe, like, I thought was really, really cool, but it was fucking bizarre. The world where she has hot dog fingers, like, was so bizarre to me, and, like I said, I agree with you completely, like, why people love it, and how she was she basically was the Neo character. I agree with you completely. Like, I enjoy it, I really, really do, but, like, they're pushing this, like, multiverse thing, and, like, it's almost too much. Like, they did it with Doctor Strange, they did it with this, they did it with Spider-Man. Give me a fucking break, guys.
No, I totally get like the fatigue. I think it's something that hopefully this will be the last. But then again, we got, you know, the Flash movie coming out that's gonna be multiverse too. I guess this is kind of like where we're going, but I would like to be, you know, those movies to be kind of like a and then I could kind of pump your brakes because I think you get fatigued from it, like we did with the superhero movies with Marvel and DC. You know, they're pushing them so hard that you kind of get a little fatigued from. So I kind of resonate with what you're saying.
Like, the
The
movie was beautiful, and I thought it was really good, and the performances were fantastic, but, like, them playing the pianos with their toes because they have hot dog fingers, and, like, there's a scene, and I know a lot of people still haven't seen it, but a bunch of people have, but there's a scene where they have to do, like, these weird things to, like, get to the next universe, and one of them is he's gotta put a butt plug up his butt. Like, it was the craziest fucking thing. It was
yeah,
goofy, but it was fun, and I get why people like it. And yes,
yeah,
at the end, my wife was crying.
yeah. It's almost like the thing is crazy. Like me watching a lot of Hong Kong flicks and a lot of yeah, overseas cinema. I watch a lot of kung fu movies. They're out there, man. Like, and
Yeah,
this like went along with everything. Like Michelle Yeoh, like she's in like a lot of those movies. Iron Monkey too was one of them, that people don't know about, but that movie's out there too. Like this kind of fits with it. So I kind of like that aspect of bringing over to American culture to see that. It's not to be taken seriously. But it was to me, it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it. Like I totally resonate with what you're saying about the multiverse, but I can see why Michelle Yeoh is getting nominated for Oscar because she played such a character that was kind of like helpless and kind of like a loser and basically develop a good arc throughout the movie. And I thought the guy who plays Data, who was known as Data, Kyu Kwan, was a great comeback for him. Uh,
I I would agree completely. Like, and what a complete turnaround for him to have not been anything in years, and now the whole cast was nominated for an Oscar. Like, just really, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was just bizarre.
oh, definitely bizarre. But check that one out if you haven't. And also, cheap plug, we will be having Magnificent Stan will be hosting a Oscars night with the Tank Love. When the Oscars come out, we'll be streaming that live and going through that. Fitz actually has an Oscar poll out where you can actually pick your winners and go against us. If you want to check out the Tan Glove Twitter, you can get that from there.
I'm
Um,
just voting for the Batman for everything.
I voted for Batman for a couple of them, but what a humble little man. He is a wonderful, humble little man.
Didn't like when you watched the movie last night, and like at the beginning of the movie when they're first at the IRS like auditor, and he's ready to fight, and he goes to his like little fanny pack. Were you hoping for like a Goonies like reference where like
Yes. Also, I thought it was hilarious. I know we're giving a little bit on the movie away, but when the part where she's talking to her daughter and there's a security cams and he just fucking starts like running around and rolling around. I'm like, what the
right?
fuck is going on?
It was very very much like the glitch in the Matrix scene. Like I was like, what is going on? Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely check it out if you haven't. And also check out you people. I'll be watching it over again. But with that, so we're gonna get into our meat and potatoes, as you like to say,
That sounds
with
delicious.
with our Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Steven Seagal debate. But before we do that, I want to share this slide of these great pictures my wife made of calling me Jean-Claude Van Yumper and you, Steven Seagal, with some great movie pictures of us with our faces on them. So if you're not watching on the YouTube, be sure to check it out on the Tank Love YouTube. This is pretty funny.
Yeah,
So shout out to
the
Jen.
the pictures are done really really well.
Yeah, so shout out to Jen for doing that. But with that, guys,
Hey,
we're gonna
Yump, I think your wife did such a good job on these that you should take her to see Magic Mike.
All right, for those who don't know, Soul's been trying to push me to go see Magic Mike. I think it's the fourth one, right? Because it
Third
has
one.
the third
It's
one,
the
because
third one with Salma Hayek.
it has Salma Hayek in it. I do not want to see Magic Mike.
Have you seen the other ones?
I've seen the first one, yes.
They're actually really fucking good.
Oh my god, I don't know.
Like they're really good. Like it's Steven Soderbergh, and it's not just like, yeah, there's a lot of naked dudes dancing, but like they're actually pretty good.
You get too ahead of yourself there, Brian. um, but with that, guys, we're gonna have. So here are the rules. We're gonna go through each movie. We have rounds. We're gonna go through each movie for each respected artist or actor, and we're gonna discuss them, and then we're gonna narrow down who we think is the winner of that round. We'll keep a tally of it. There can also be ties. So it could be Seagal, it could be Van Damme. But we will have a little ticker on the bottom to show you guys who is ahead and who's tied and all that good famous jazz. And with that, the guy that takes his shirt off wants you to see Magic Mike. Yes. But with that, let's get in to Seagal versus Van Damme.
Ooh, now, Tom, come on. If we're gonna play, you got to play nice. So you go run your little ass off. I know where the bombs are, so I know where you're going.
Then come and get me.
1995's Sudden Death, directed by Peter Hyams, who also directed Time Cop: The Relic, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Powers Booth, Raymond Barry, and Whitney Wright. The movie had a box office of $64 million on a budget of $35 million. And that is facing...
What about you, you little bitch? Wanna give it a try? Let's go! Up! Up!
Nah, not me. That's not what I'm going to do. But you should climb on up there. I'm gonna go on over here myself. Watch you fall and bust your ass. Little bitch.
2002's Half Past Dead, directed and written by Don Michael Paul, who is well known for Death Race 4, I guess. Starring Steven Seagal, Ja Rule, Morris Chestnut, Tony Plana, Matthew Baligla, and Nia Peoples. The movie had a box office of $25 million and a budget of $19.2 million. So, Swell, tell me about Sudden Death.
So, Sudden Death, kind of, like, I think this is not even close, right? I think this is Sudden Death over Half Past Dead. And I think this is where you and I, when we sat down and constructed this list, we fucked up. This should have been The Glimmer Man with Keenen Ivory Wayans. Like, that would have been a better matchup versus Sudden Death, because Sudden Death has everything. It has action, it has martial arts, it has fucking hockey, it has sports. He's got to save the igloo, which is where the Penguins actually play in Pittsburgh, from blowing up during a Penguins game. This movie, hands down, runs away, in my opinion.
So for me, I thought this is kind of a toss up. I think Sudden Death is a kind of regurgitation of Die Hard, but within hockey.
Yeah,
it's kind of
that
out
sounds awesome.
but Half Past Dead is just bad. Like, it's okay. And Ja Rule is what ruins it for me in Half Past Dead, because he's a horrible actor. But when it comes to story, I would have to give it to Sudden Death because it has a better story with it. And it has the Chicago Blackhawks versus the Pittsburgh Penguins, which happened to be the finals, a few years
1993
before.
Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, a few years before, which I thought was kind of cool. But just Half Past Dead doesn't do it for me. I watched the movie. I love Tony Plana. It's just not a great movie. And I think with Sudden Death, even though it's not one of his great movies, I would have to give this one to the Van Damme.
Yeah, I'm gonna completely agree with you. And like, I think you hit it on the head. Like, Ja Rule is awful, and even Ja Rule is like one line in like the original Fast and the Furious. I was like, dude, I don't want to see you in a movie like probably ever. And I love the first Fast and the Furious movie. Yeah, everything else after that, I'm like, whatever. But like,
Tokyo Drift was good.
It was okay. It had nothing to do with the rest of the Fast and the Furious movies.
No,
until they made it like have to do with the Fast and the Furious movies. But like, I'm not a fan of Ja Rule's acting or his music.
What I meant to say was Half Past Dead. So Shane agrees with us. Half Past Dead sucked. I didn't finish what I was going to say. LOL. Yeah, it wasn't that good. A couple of trivia, clips about notes about this. Half Past Dead is actually named for Steven Seagal's eating habit. I found this as true and hilarious because he claims he would eat until he was half past dead before stopping. This is from IMDb, so
that was also me before the 108 weight loss challenge.
Oh, you're nowhere near Mr. Seagal and his eating habits, my friend. James Woods for Sudden Death was actually considered for the role of Joseph Foss.
Ooh,
Joshua Foss. Yes, instead of Powers Booth. I'm a big fan of Powers Booth. He was in Rapid Fire. I know people don't like Brandon Lee, but I liked him in that movie as well.
Certain people in here don't like Brandon.
Yeah. But it's just a lot more, like I said, a lot more good to go with Sudden Death than Half Past Dead. So I am going to agree with you with this one. We're going to tally this one up for Mr. JCVD, putting him ahead 1-0.
I like it.
And with that, let's get to our next one.
This is the symbol of the goat, the pet of Satan. That's it. You have a case that belongs to me.
Does it?
Yes, like your lives.
2012's The Expendables 2, directed by Simon West, who's also known for Con Air and Laura Croft Tomb Raider, starring Sylvester Stallone, JCVD, Jason Stratham, Terry Crews, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Dolph Lundgren. Jesus Christ, there's a lot of people in here. Jet
Yeah.
Li, Chuck Norris, Liam Hemsworth, and Scott Adkins. The movie had a budget of $100 million and made $315 million at the box office. And this is going up against
Can't puto. You know, I could kill you right now very easily. Believe me. This is nothing. This ain't shit.
Machete, released in 2010, directed by Robert Rodriguez, starring Danny Trejo, Steven Seagal, Michelle Rodriguez, Cheech Marin, Lindsay Lohan, Jessica Alba, and the great Robert De Niro. This movie had a budget of $10.5 million and made 44.1 at the box office. So, Swole, start me off with a little bit of Machete.
So I think this cast is fantastic in Machete. It's a Robert Rodriguez movie, which, like, if you know me, if you know Yump, like, we fucking love Robert Rodriguez and most of the movies he makes. He's also, like a contributor to Quentin Tarantino stuff, but Cheech Marin, Lindsay Lohan, Don Johnson. I think Machete is the winner here. Expendables didn't really take off till Kelsey Grammer joined the cast. No, I mean, the first Expendables was fun. I don't know if I needed a sequel. And
Yeah,
that's where this is. Like, we're putting up an original movie up against a sequel, and I think that gives Machete the win. Also, I think it's a good story.
Yeah, so Machete is based off Spy Kids. His characters in Spy Kids, and Robert Rodriguez basically expanded it in this movie, standalone movie. Uh, Expendables 2, I think is not a bad movie. I think I love the fight scene between Van Damme and Stallone at the end. That was really nicely choreographed, and actually Van Damme actually choreographed it himself because whatever was in the script he didn't like, and he asked with Stallone's permission if he could choreograph it, which they made a lot better because I guess his character was supposed to run away a lot. He's like, "No, people want to see us fucking fight, so let's fight."
Right.
With that said, I like Machete a lot better in terms of story, and I think a lot more better comedy than Expendables. I think Expendables has the unfortunate thing of having too many action stars in there to where you have to find their little cameos in there. I mean, Jet Li's was advertised. I think he's only in the movie for like 7 minutes.
And also, like, it sticks with, like, Robert Rodriguez exploitation style, like, filmmaking. Like, it feels like Planet Terror. It feels like the other movies that he did in this exact same style, and it makes it look cool.
Yeah, and I will give it up to Steven Seagal. He actually speaks some Spanish in this movie, as he's playing a Mexican cartel leader. But I found it hilarious when doing research for this that for Machete, when Robert Rodriguez first gave this, idea of doing this movie, he actually told Danny Trejo about it, and Danny Trejo became obsessed with randomly texting him, randomly calling him actually, to the point where Robert Rodriguez is like, "Hey, you could just text Danny," and he's like, "Machete don't text," which is something that actually got conceived into the movie. But I thought that was hilarious.
And also, it's the first movie that Danny Trejo was the lead, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's
Danny Trejo's so underrated. Like, yeah.
yeah, and he's also known. He's mostly known typecast as the evil guy, and like finally he gets something that propels him. And like Danny Trejo's such an awesome dude. If you guys don't know, like the stuff he does for Community, like just in all the stories of him being humble, he's like a real nice dude.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice that he got his little, time in the sun. For Expendables, they were gonna offer some roles to Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, which I thought kind of would have mixed it up a little bit better. Jackie Chan was offered a role, but he had to turn it down because he was doing another movie. But the cool thing is Chuck Norris actually came out of retirement at 71 to do this movie, which I thought was a nice little add to it. It was the Chuck Norris facts were also in it. But I give Machete in terms of story and a lot more better enjoyableness to the point for Seagal for this one.
I would agree with you. I think we go Seagal with this one.
Yeah, so with that, we'll go Seagal, and that actually makes it 1-1 in terms of our tally. So with that, let's go on to our next film.
Let's do it.
Well, I'm not going home. I'm gonna get on my boat, and I'm going upriver, and I'm going to kick that son of a bitch Bison's ass so hard that the next Bison wannabe is gonna feel it. Now, who wants to go home, and who wants to go with me?
1994 Street Fighter, directed by Steven Souza, who also wrote Die Hard, Commando, and 48 Hours. This movie stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Raul Julia, Kali Minogue, Ming Yao Wen, Byron Mann, and Damian Chapa. The movie had a box office of $99.4 million on a $35 million budget. And that is going against...
See, I love the spirit world and I loved your father, but it doesn't matter right now. What really matters is the cold, hard reality of this world, and that's what we got to deal with. I didn't want to resort to violence. I don't have a choice, and I'm not taking any chances this time, because I can't.
I'm sorry, that quote makes me laugh. On Deadly Ground, released in 1994, the movie is directed by Steven Seagal, starring Michael Caine, Joan Chen, Billy Bob Thornton, and Richard Hamilton. This movie had a budget of $50 million and made 78.1 at the box office. So I can start this one off. On Deadly Ground has a great message, but it's a horrible movie. It's just I understand he's going. This is when Steven Seagal is going through his Dalai Lama phase. I mean, he still is kind of in that phase, but he's going through. It's a movie about oil rigs on native land, and I like the message he's trying to put. But it's just horribly acted. Like if that monologue it is put in didn't show you how bad of a movie it is. Like Steven Seagal is not a great serious actor. It's not very good. Street Fighter, for everything that it is, it's one of the movies that me and my brother watched all the time. It's not a great movie, don't get me wrong, but it has Raul Julia, who I think steals the show. It has more comedic scenes in it with Jean-Claude Van Damme doing "I'll give Bison one of these," ha, and then his stupid shit he says throughout the movie. It has more comedy in there with the guy who plays Zangief. It's just, it was kind of cool seeing all these characters come in. So, in my opinion, Street Fighter has to take this one. What do you think?
So, you know how I always talk about, like, when we're in the pod and, like, when we're making an episode, how my dad showed me all these fucking cool movies. Like, my dad was never into movies like this, but my stepfather Wally was into movies like this, right? And these movies are fucking terrible, but I love all of them, right? I love that Seagal wanted to get this message out about, native land and indigenous people and stuff like that. But you're right, it wasn't very good. And I know I'm going to get some shit about this from like my mother and my stepdad. Street Fighter is a better movie than On Deadly Ground. Jean-Claude Van Damme was at his peak, and even though he was from Brussels and Gaia was supposed to be an American soldier, also we talked about Raul Julia, but also Miklo was in this movie as Ken, right? And I think that's awesome. And I love Street Fighter. I saw this at the theater a bunch of time with friends when my dad was in a different theater. I gotta go Street Fighter here.
Yeah, and the Ken casting Damian Chapa as Ken, I was like, man, why the hell did they cast this dude as Ken? Because Ken's a blonde haired dude, and they made Miklo Ken. But after doing research like we do for this, I found out that Damian Chapa actually didn't, rejected this role because he wanted to do something more serious. I mean, but his kids loved the game so much, he kind of did what Raul Julia was like, okay, I'll play the role.
I'll do it. Yeah.
And that's the reason Raul Julia took this role, was because his kids loved it. And
he had no idea what it was.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's his last movie, and he does a great job in it. And I think a lot of the issues with Street Fighter is Capcom kept pushing the director and this filming studio to have more characters added. So that's why you have like these little cameos from characters. But I think if they would have cut out the control there, it might have been more of a decent movie. But like I said, On Deadly Ground is just horrible.
Yeah, but you're not wrong, right? Like DJ and like they just kept adding things, and like they had to make, like, Blanca was a soldier that like they made him watch like Clockwork Orange style like videos to make him bad.
Yeah, he was
Like,
Charlie.
he was Charlie or Carlos.
Yeah.
And like they're both terrible movies, but I love one and I don't love the other one. So I'm gonna go JCVD on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna totally agree with you. But some facts about On Deadly Ground. Steven Seagal won the Golden Raspberry for being director of this movie, which I can understand totally why. Uh, like I said, this movie is about environmental stuff. He had a 40-minute monologue or footage around that to where he thought was important, but in his final edit, he decided to cut it down to 7 minutes.
He was
Uh,
Zangief, Brian.
yeah, he's from the
And he has
Philadelphia
the best line in the movie. He's like, "You got paid?"
Well, not just that, when they're watching, I think they're watching like something about the American history, like the American forces coming, the United forces coming. He's like, "Quick, change the channel." Like that part's pretty funny too. Like it
He's
has
like,
this
"Wait,
more comedian in it.
we're the bad guys?"
Yeah, I thought it was okay movie, but like I said, On Deadly Grounds is horrible. So like you already said, we're gonna give this one to Van Damme,
I think
and
we
it's
have to.
and after 3 rounds, Van Damme is up 2-1, and we're gonna go into our next one.
Because of my big legs and karate, I can do the splits no problem.
Love that line. 1991's Double Impact, directed by Sheldon Lettich, who also directed The Lionheart, The Order, Second in Command, and Hard Corps, all Van Damme movies. The screenplay he wrote was for Bloodsport, which is kind of cool. He wrote Rambo 3, and he was an editor for Cyborg, so he has a lot of Van Damme and a little bit of Stallone influence there. Starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jeffrey Lewis, Alona Shaw, Philip Shan, Alan Scarf, and Bolo Young. It had a budget of $15 million and made $30 million at the box office. And its versus opponent is
Money now and a lot more when I get in that office. I can take that to the bank.
I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent.
1990's Hard to Kill, directed by Bruce Melmoth, who's Swole, you're gonna love this. Bruce Malmuth is more known for being the ring announcer in the first 2 Karate Kid movies than he is anything else.
That's fantastic.
It's starring Steven Seagal, Kelly LeBrock, Bill Sadler, and Frederick Coffin. This movie had a budget of $11.5 million and made $59.5 at the box office. So, Swole, which one are you picking on this one?
Man, Hard to Kill has William Sadler in it, and wasn't his name Mason Storm in this
Yes,
movie?
that was Tim Seagal's character, Mason Storm. Yes,
I think they're both awful, but I'm gonna go Hard to Kill on this one, man. I think the movie that we should have picked, if we were gonna go a double title, is Double Team with Dennis Rodman, and I think we didn't vet our I don't think we vetted all of our movies properly.
yeah. Double Team's a Van Damme movie, so I think we can't. That's not like it's one of his known ones, but it wasn't like a big hit. So I think we kind of left that one on the side. That's why. For me,
I love that one. Like, didn't him and Rodman jump out of a fucking plane together?
Dude, that movie's so bad.
It's so bad, but I loved it.
I just remember the trailer for it when he's like offering scores and he's like, but defense wins the game.
Defense wins the game.
Yes, Brian, it's crazy. Like, Brian's comment is Hard to Kill made more money than Machete? ? I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. Like when going through these movies made a lot more money than I ever could fathom. Like it's crazy.
I know it's crazy. But there's a lot of dads out there that like beat their wives that like really love these movies, man.
Jesus Christ. Double Impact has Boyle Young from, of course, Bloodsport. Chong Li,
yeah.
But also he was in Enter the Dragon. He's a student of Bruce Lee, which I love. I do kind of like the aspect that Jean-Claude Van Damme plays 2 characters, one an American name. They're both Americans. One's named Alex and the other one is I forget the other one's name. But they have 2 different personalities, and Van Damme said he's more like the Alex character who's quiet and just beats people up, which I thought was hilarious.
He's just a quiet, violent criminal.
Yeah, that's basically what he's saying. A lot of similarities in Double Impact to Double Dragon, so a lot of influence was pulled from there.
Double Dragon, Scott Wolf.
Yes. Oh god, this movie's so horrible. The video games I'm talking about. But in Hard to Kill, Kelly LeBrock actually came out of retirement to be in this movie for Steven Seagal, her husband at the time, which she got lucky.
wasn't Hard to Kill from like 1989 or 1990?
1990, yeah.
And wasn't like Weird Science like 1986? So she was retired for what, like 3-4 years already?
Yeah, and then she came back for this movie. Um, so for Hard to Kill, one thing that kind of gets me like makes me that I don't like about it is the training montage when he's punching the board and then he's running up the hill. And I'm like, so I see. I love. Listen, don't get me wrong. I love Seagal movies, but like his running is horrible. It's great and it's horrible at the same time.
Well, and that's what Zoe was talking about yesterday on Twitter. Like his running, it's bad, it's brutal, and it's funny. But I don't think any of it is as bad as like the characters that he names himself after in some of these movies, like
Yes.
Mason Storm and what was his name in Sasha Petrosovich in
Oh
Half
my
Past
god.
Dead.
Yes.
And then,
He
of course, like I don't even want to say it, like because Above the Law is coming later. But
Mhm.
Nico Toscani,
Yeah, it's oh my god, like he's and his like he kind of plays like everybody talks about typecast, like Seagal kind of plays the same character through his movies.
he does.
Um, but with Above the Law, they actually this is the first movie his iconic ponytail makes an appearance, so Beef Loaf would appreciate that. Uh, this-
Furio took inspiration from him.
did he now?
Yeah.
the fucking game.
Child of Furio.
I just alley ooped that to you because I was setting that up. I was setting that up.
Yeah, like you, I without going into too much more about it, I would have to give this movie also to this round to Seagal. So right now we are tied 2-2.
Whew.
So
It's closer than I thought, Yump.
yeah, it's a lot closer. So let's go on to our next one.
What the hell are you staring at? Do you have any idea what it's like out there? Do you? Well, I'm fighting this thing, man. I kick ass. Well, kiss ass. And I'm busting heads.
1992's Universal Soldier, directed by Ronald Emmerich, who also wrote Independence Day, Resurgence, Day After Tomorrow, and the horrible 1998 movie Godzilla. This movie stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, Ali Walker, and Gary Orbach. It had a box office of $95 million on a $23 million budget. And it's going up against...
She's lucky she's a girl, because I know a little... Why? I know a little of that stuff myself.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Usually from you, but that's what I hear.
Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, released in 1995, directed by Jeff Murphy, who also directed The Quiet Earth and one of my favorite films, Young Guns 2. This movie was written by Matt Reeves of The Batman, so I think I know which way Swole's going to go on this one. It stars Steven Seagal, Morris Chestnut, Katherine Heigl, and Everett McGill. This movie made $104 million on a $60 million budget. Swole, tell me about these movies.
So I got to be honest with you, Yump. This Universal Soldier is not one that I like. I don't remember it very well. Like I think I remember Time Cop more than I remember Universal Soldier. I know that they were kind of like they were battling, but I can tell you where I saw Under Siege 2 at, and I like Under Siege 2. I think Under Siege 2 is a good, fun movie, right? Katherine Heigl is a teenager, and she's his niece, and they're on a train, and he's got to go to his brother's funeral. Like, I'm going Under Siege 2 here all the way.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be split on this one because I think Under Siege 2 is a horrible movie.
Oh man, no! This movie is entertaining as fuck.
It's entertaining, but I like Universal Soldier better. I'm a big fan of Lundgren, and I thought him playing the psychopath in the movie was a lot better and entertaining to me. I thought the whole premise of the movie was good. Also, it has Jerry Orbach, so I might be a little biased in the Van Damme movie on Universal Soldier. Under Siege 2, I really couldn't get into it. I felt it was kind of rushed. And the reason I say that is because On Deadly Ground was made and funded because Steven Seagal said he would do Under Siege 2.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I get it.
and Under Siege, I think, 2 falls into that. Just for me, like, it's not as good as the first one.
No, it's not. But man, Eric Bogosian, he was in Oliver Stone's Talk Radio. He's a creepy dude, and he plays the bad guy in this. I vote for neither. Katherine Heigl, before her fame, she was still a teenager before she was known as a raging "See You Next Tuesday."
Mhm.
Also, wasn't Red Foreman in this movie?
Yes, he was the general.
Yeah, like I thoroughly enjoyed Under Siege 2. I saw it at the Tippecanoe Mall in West Lafayette, and basically that's all there is to do at the Tippecanoe Mall in West Lafayette. So I have very fond memories of seeing this movie. I like this movie a lot. I'm going Under Siege 2 here.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go Universal Soldier, so I think it's gonna be a tie for both of them.
I
But
am totally okay with that.
so am I. Like I don't hate Under Siege 2. I just prefer more Universal Soldier. But some facts about Under Siege 2, Gary Oldman, Lawrence Fishburne, Julian Sands, and Jeff Goldblum were considered for the role of Travis Dane. Also, Gary Busey was actually cast as the villain in this movie. But when Seagal found out, he was unhappy about it and told the casting director, so they recast the role. But Gary Busey had in his contract a pay and play. So if he was cast in something, even though he didn't play the role, he was still paid his $350,000. So he got a nice little payday for doing nothing.
So he was supposed to be the villain in the first one and the second one?
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do the storyline for that, but that was what
Huh.
was gonna happen. Seagal wore a girdle for this movie because he was gaining weight, which
We've
I
all
thought
been
was
there.
yeah, he worked for Red Foreman. Did he work for Dick Jones? He
He
sure the
did
hell
work
did.
for Dick Jones.
It's another great
I'd buy
movie.
that for $1.
That's another great movie. RoboCop, great movie. And then for Universal Soldier, they the big thing around this, I remember watching this on TV, was Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme had a fake fight at the Canines Awards.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and they basically, they're trying to be separated, and everybody's like, "Oh, was it real?" And they're like, "No." It came out later saying, "No, it wasn't real," which I thought gave some good publicity for the movie. And I found it interesting after reading some of the trivia that most of the ice in the movie that was used to cool down the soldiers was from a 7-Eleven in Arizona, and they actually invited the owner of the 7-Eleven to come on set and hang out because, his sale figures were so high and they were giving him so much money, for the movie. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go Universal Soldier on this one. You're gonna go Under Siege.
I'm gonna go Under Siege 2.
So we have our first tie.
We got our
So
first tie, yep.
it's for the scorekeeping, it is 2-2 with tie. And with that, let's go on to our next one.
I said get lost.
Now take your big stick and your boyfriend and find a bus to catch.
1993's Hard Target, directed by John Woo, who also directed Hard Boiled, The Killer, Face Off, Mission Impossible 2, and Wind Talkers. This movie stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Lance Henriksen, Yancey Butler, and Arnold Vosloo. I had a box office of 74.2 million on a budget of 20 million. This movie surprised me at how much money it made, but it's going up against.
What? Would you mind not leaning on the...
Oh, shit. I could get some ass from the twins in this dog. This the one. This is the one. How are you? Oh, hell yeah. Ooh, Johnson got a fat ass. I got some famous Johnson.
2001's Exit Wounds, directed by Andrew Bartokolowick. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Who also directed Romeo Must Die, Cradle to the Grave, Doom, and Street Fighter sequel, The Legend of Chun-Li.
The Legend of Chun-Li, yeah.
Yeah. This movie stars Steven Seagal, DMX, Anthony Anderson, Tom Arnold, Eva Mendes, Isaiah Washington, Michael Jai White, and Jill Hennessy. And this movie made $80 million on a $33 million budget.
Jesus Christ.
So like I said, these movies are my vote can be bought baloney. These movies made significantly a lot more money than I thought they were gonna make, which
they're
is
also
crazy.
like cheap to produce too. Like, well, by today's standards, they're cheap to produce.
Yeah, they totally are. So just me giving out, like, without telling you who I'm gonna vote for yet, Hard Target was the first movie that brought John Woo here. Van Damme met him in Hong Kong when he was filming Double Impact to get him over here to film this movie specifically. So you see a lot of John Woo's, trademarks that were in Hong Kong action flicks, which are awesome. If you haven't seen The Killer or Hard Boiled, I strongly encourage you guys to do so. They have them on Blu-ray. Those are great movies with Chow Yun-fat. But the slow gunshot slow mo bullet time is a John Woo effect. The guns are whipping around, the aerodynamics of everything. That's all John Woo. His effects are like awesome. So that's really great about Hard Target. Exit Wounds is a basically a more elaboration of DMX as an actor. He was in Romeo Must Die. Him and
Yeah.
director got along great. So when he had this vehicle with Seagal, he had DMX do it, and DMX does a better job than fucking Ja Rule. And also, he fights Steven Seagal. So DMX did some what was that? Def Jam, Def Jam
Oh, Def
fighting
Jam Vendetta.
with fucking Steven Seagal, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal again plays Steven Seagal, and also if you notice the quotes I use for these movies are when it comes to Seagal, they're like not Seagal lines because he has horrible dialogue in
He
his
has
movies.
horrible dialogue.
And I tried to get like Seagal lines, it just did not go well. DMX hated working with Seagal, which is a big surprise. He called him a dickhead. He did not enjoy working with him. Anthony Anderson joked that this whole purpose of him in this movie was to make DMX look good. Eva Mendes came out and said that this movie was horrible. They actually dubbed over her dialogue. So when she went to the premiere of her family, they had another actress dub over her dialogue. She did not know about this. And when she asked why, they told her, because you didn't sound intelligent enough, which I think is completely like assholeish. And Seagal lost weight to be in this movie, along with Jill Hennessy saying this is one of the best movies of her career, which I was like, what? But like, and then Hard Target has Arnold Vosloo, who is from The Mummy, who does a great job as a hitman, and Lance Hendrickson. To me, I'm gonna lean Exit Wounds on this without through my ramble because I like John Woo, but I think Hard Target was kind of corny. I thought Lance Hendrickson was very good in Hard Target and Arnold Vosloo, but I thought Van Damme's character was horrible. That's just how I'm gonna play it. What about you?
So part of me wants to vote for Hard Target just because of Van Damme's hair. It's probably the worst hair I've ever. It's like very Nicolas Cage in Con Air. Like he's got a long flowing mullet. But I was absolutely a massive fan of Romeo Must Die. Like I thought Romeo Must Die was a fantastic. Like I loved it. And this was like the director's follow up movie to that. So I'm gonna go Exit Wounds on this one.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna go agree with you on that. Like you said, Romeo Must Die, and then they have X Wounds. And it's kind of funny if you guys have seen Cradle to the Grave with Jet Li and DMX. Tom Arnold's also in that movie. The cast from here is in there as well, and they actually make fun of the fact that everybody reoccurs himself because they say at the end they should get the director from Romeo Must Die to do this movie, and they should have which I thought was pretty hilarious. Van Damme himself even said, Hard Target was a bad script, but we had some great action scenes, which they did. And John Woo made me look like a samurai with greasy hair.
It was bad. There's you could buy it right now, and if it wasn't so much, it would have been your Christmas present. But there's like a custom Hard Target Jean-Claude Van Damme action figure that someone took the time to make. You can find it on Etsy, and it's like $500, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember watching this, and I'm like, man, this movie's fucking out there. I mean, there's a part where he smacks the shit out of a snake. He's like grabs and smacks the shit out of it, which I think is crazy. But I don't think like that scene and Arnold Vosloo and Lance Henriksen could save the movie. And I also found, when doing research for this, that Lance Henriksen actually had a bigger role in this movie, and Van Damme went to the editing room and cut for like 40 minutes of his stuff. Not to be a dick, but just like he's like, people are paying to see me, not Lance Henriksen as the action star. Which I mean is okay. I mean, you get that. But I gotta go Exit Wounds on this. And it's surprisingly to me, after this will be the sixth movie.
This is the sixth movie. Seagal's in the lead.
Seagal is actually in the lead 3-2 with a tie, which is crazy. But let's go on to our next one and see if Van Damme can actually catch up.
So what you learn? It's all in the legs.
Legs. This guy was kicking one of these with his fucking legs. Until the platform was falling down.
So what? Can he move like me? No, we got him.
1989's Kickboxer, directed by David Worth, who also directed Lady Dragon and Lady Dragon 2. This movie stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dennis Alexio, Dennis Chan and Michelle Kesey. The movie had a box office of $50 million on a $2.7 million budget. And this movie is facing.
Anybody seen Richie? Huh? I'm gonna keep coming back till somebody remembers seeing Richie.
Oh man, I love that line. 1991's Out for Justice, directed by John Flynn, who also directed Lockup and Brain Scan, starring Steven Seagal, William Forsythe, Joe Champa, Jerry Orbach, Gina Gershwin, and it had a budget of 14 million, and this movie made 39.6 at the box office. Swole, tell me about these two movies.
So, I actually really like both of these movies, but I gotta give the nod to this movie, and please don't kill me, Yump. I gotta give the nod to this movie to Out for Justice, just because Kickboxer is essentially the same fucking thing as Bloodsport. Like, his brother is in a match, and he gets hurt, so he goes to learn Muay Thai, and it's the same thing as Bloodsport, essentially. And I know all these movies are really the same, but this was the first like real Steven Seagal movie that I remember. I'm gonna go Out for Justice on this one, man.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna be split on this one too, because although I
They're
like
both great.
Yeah, they're both great movies, but just breaking down the movie, like Kickboxer is Kickboxer. It's Van Damme, like you said, kind of but Seagal's acting as a Brooklyn Italian guy and Out for Justice is fucking horrible. Um, the movie makes kind of no sense. This dude meets with with the godfather of the mob and tells him to go fuck himself, which is just kind of random out there. In terms of like more action, I liked Kickboxer a little more. I think Seagal is actually outshone in his movie by William Forsythe,
I
which
mean, William Forsythe is the man.
yeah,
So like I get it.
which is why I would give this edge to this Kickboxer just for Van Damme, and I love the training montage in it. And plus it has Stan Bush in it, which does Street to Siam, which Stan Bush is gonna come up later in the movie we're gonna discuss. But Stan Bush is fucking badass. Also, like you have a sentimental connection with Out for Justice because it's one of the first Seagal movies you saw. Um, my first movie I saw of Van Damme was the one that we're gonna discuss later, Bloodsport. But I remember seeing this movie at at the movie rental store. Uh, and it said on the box, it doesn't say it here, but the movie that made Jean-Claude Van Damme a star. Like it would say that in the box.
Well, I think that's the other reason that I'm going to go Out for Justice is because I saw the Bloodsport was the first Van Damme movie I ever saw, and it's awesome. Like it's fantastic. And this was the one that I saw after it, and I'm like, it's not as good as Bloodsport. That's what made me. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there. And Lucky Spag had both of them on VHS. I had both of them on VHS too. I own these movies on Blu-ray, so I'm a big fan of both of them. I just gotta go a little bit more with Kickboxer just for the sentimental feeling for me. And
I
you're
get
going
it.
with Out for Justice. But I think both are very good movies. This is probably like this is prime Van Damme, prime Seagal.
But I think I saw this movie at the Bel Air Drive-In on Cicero Avenue. I want to know who remembers that.
I remember it.
I know Yumper does, but I saw this at the Bel Air Drive-In. I think I was with my mom and my stepdad, and that's that. Like I remember seeing this, and that's why I like it.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Bella Driving was awesome. But we'll do a tie on this one. So it's gonna be Seagal still in the lead with 3,
It's 2-3-2.
JCVD with 2,
I
and
thought this
then
was going to be a runaway, Yump.
so did I. But let's see if Seagal or Van Damme can catch up with our next one.
I went 10 rounds with John L. Sullivan himself.
I saw Tyson beat Spinks on TV.
Time Cop, released in 1994, directed by Peter Hyams, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Mia Sara, Ron Silver. This movie had a box office of $101 million and a $28 million budget. And it's going up against.
I don't think you can drop us off, badass.
You're right, but I'll get an A for effort.
1988's Above the Law, directed by Andrew Davis, who also directed The Guardian, Holes, The Fugitive, and The First Under Siege. It stars Steven Seagal, Pam Grier, Henry Silva, Ron Dean, and a very young Sharon Stone. This movie had a budget of $7.5 million and made a box office of 18.9. We got for this one, Swole.
Man, this is a tough one. But like remember, like Sharon Stone is Steven Seagal's wife in this one, right?
Mhm.
And I remember like the church scene and the christening at a Catholic Chicago church. And his name is fucking Nico Toscano. Like we talk
Toscani.
about the name. I'm gonna go above the law with this one. I like Tom Cop. It's awesome. I think my cousin Mark like dubbed it on VHS for me, and I watched it 100 times. But I gotta go above the law on this one.
Yeah, so this is crazy because Van Damme needs to win this to stay in this, and I'm gonna have to go with Above the Law in this one because Time Cop's a good movie, but Above the Law, for one, it's filmed in Chicago. It has a young Sharon Stone who's smoking, it has Pam Grier in it, which is, basically from having the old action movies of Foxy Brown, and then she's in this movie. She plays a cop. It has Jerry Orbach. No, that's in Out to Justice. It has Rod Dean in it, which I like. Henry Silva. This movie is basically parodied and shown in other movies. Step Brothers has the part
Step
of it.
Brothers. I was just gonna say,
break the arm, break the arm.
You're in trouble now.
Yeah. I just to me it's more iconic. I know Time Cop is Van Damme's like big movie in terms of box office, but I think Above the Law is just better written and it's a better movie. It also has Steven Seagal running hilariously through the street, which I thought was funny. There's also, if you guys want to see something really hilarious, there's a guy on TikTok called 60-Second Films. He does a breakdown of the fight that Seagal has with the Mexican gang, which is fucking hilarious. He also does the fight with Van Damme, other people, but the one with him and the Mexican gang is hilarious. So I really encourage you guys to check that one out.
Also, John C. Reilly isn't Above the Law, and he's credited as the thug in the bar in Above the Law.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is though, in Above the Law, the guy who tells Nico, "I told you never be the man." That I always thought as a kid that guy was in People Under the Stairs. Because he looks like the kid. He looks like the kid that he meets at the end of People Under the Stairs. Like I always thought he was in it, and then when I found out when I got older he wasn't, I'm like, holy shit, he looks like the guy from People Under the Stairs. So I don't mean to be, bashing dude, but he looked like one of those characters.
I fucking love that movie.
It's another great movie. So like I said, Seagal claims that Above the Law was something they were saving for Clint Eastwood. We don't know if it's true. A lot of his backstory is,
he's crazy.
Talks about it's like, yeah, he's not all there. A lot of it's been come out as not true. One cool thing I do like is before this is Seagal's big action, his first like debut, and when they were trying to figure out if Seagal was the right man for this, they said we have to see your martial arts skills. And for those who don't know, I think Seagal's a fourth dan in Aikido. He's like, okay, well, come to my class and I'll show you. So they came and he basically dominated everybody in his class, like beat the shit out of everybody. And to the point where he's scared, the producers are like, okay, this is our guy. Not knowing that Seagal told his students, yeah, just take the fall for me. It's going to make me look good. And then he told them at the end, yeah, my students were all in on it. So like, oh, okay. I mean,
you do what you got to do to book the role, right?
Yeah. And it does have a little bit of Seagal's backstory. He was the first American to open up a Aikido, American-owned Aikido studio in Japan, which I thought was kind of cool. This is probably Seagal's best acting, in my opinion. And it has like that 80s vibe music.
Oh, totally.
So that's why I'm going with Above the Law over Time Cop. And unfortunately, as much as I love Jean-Claude Van Damme, it looks like he can't come back from this. So in true Street Fighter form, we're gonna have to give the tally to Steven Seagal so far. He's gonna go up 4-2 with 2 ties. But we still got one more left, and we know that's a big one, Swole. So
it is a big one.
Who better than to get this one out than the man Bruce Buffer himself to get us there?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, it's record. Now I break you like I break your friend.
1988's Bloodsport, directed by New Arnold, who was also assistant director on The Godfather 2, War Games, and Blade Runner. This movie stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Boyle Young, Donald Gibb, Leah Ayres, Norman Burton, and Forrest Whitaker. This movie had a budget of $2.3 million and made $50 million at the box office. And it's going up against...
So who are you? Are you like some special forces guy or something?
I'm just a cook.
A cook?
Just a lowly cook.
Oh my god, we're gonna die.
1992's Under Siege, directed by Andrew Davis, starring Steven Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones, and Gary Busey. This is Seagal's highest grossing movie of $156 million with a budget of $35 million. Swole, who you got for this one?
Yump, I love you. You know I love you, and I'm gonna take a knee on this one, and I'm gonna call this a tie. I can't choose, man. It's Sophie's choice. Like, both of these movies are awesome. They both like speak to, like, you know, the time that they came out. When did Under Siege come out?
92.
And Bloodsport came out in what, 87?
88.
88. Like, they speak to the when they came out. I'm not picking. I'm gonna go a tie on this one. Like, I can't do it, Yump. They're both perfect for what they are. Like, Under Siege was like a dumb 90s action flick with Playboy model titties and Gary Busey and Tommy Lee Jones in the leather jacket. And Frank Dukes was, you know, this dude from Brussels that was supposed to be an American military brat, and he learned to fight blind, and he wore the Giants jersey when he went to go rob the dude's house. I'm not picking, man. I'm gonna call this one a push. I'm sorry, man. Can we do that? Is that allowed, or do I have to pick?
You can call it a push. I'm gonna pick one though.
Well, you tell me, what are you gonna pick? You're gonna go Bloodsport.
Yes, I'm gonna go Bloodsport for two reasons. One, Stan Bush.
The
Kumite song.
The Chiefs just walked it off. They had 23-20 with 3 seconds left. Sorry.
Oh my god. Fuck.
Yeah.
I want the Bengals to win. But Bloodsport, just for Stan Bush and Fight to Survive, the Kumite song is one.
Yeah.
Has great training montages. Has a
Forrest
young
Whitaker.
Forrest Whitaker's in there.
Yeah.
I like Under Siege. I like Tommy Lee Jones, and I like Gary Busey. I like this Steven Seagal in this movie. I just think that Bloodsport is a better movie. Has a better storyline to it, in my opinion. Even though a lot of the stuff that Frank Dukes came out with, saying all these records are at the beginning end of the movie are complete bullshit because he came out to be a complete liar. I still like Bloodsport. It's the first one of the first martial arts movies I ever saw, and it's
you're
one of
not.
my
The
favorites.
thing is that you're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I can't. Like, they're both so good. Like, Gary Busey and drag, like dancing around like the ship, and Tommy Lee Jones eating the like the prime rib raw on the deck of the ship. But him making up a cake batter, and then like all of a sudden he's like concocting weapons in like the gallery. Like, they're both just like, they're perfect for what they were. Both of them.
But Under Siege didn't have this line,
Okay, USA.
which
Okay,
puts,
USA.
puts Bloodsport over it, in my opinion. So I'm gonna give it to Bloodsport. You can give it a tie. It doesn't really matter, even if I gave JCVD a 3 and you give it a tie of 1, it still means Seagal won 4-3, which I
Yeah.
think is redonkulous.
I think
and
that's
crazy.
crazy. And who knew? Who knew?
Yes. So for those keeping score at home, we have the final tally of Steven Seagal with 4, JCVD with 3, and we tied on 3. Swole decided to tie the last 2 movies. So I gave mine to JCVD there, and it's a 4-3. So just a little background on Under Siege. This movie, since Andrew Davis directed The Fugitive, which was an Oscar-nominated movie,
Great movie.
having Tommy Lee Jones in this movie really like propelled his career, because Harrison Ford watched him play the villain in here and loved him. And when he got cast in The Fugitive, he actually asked, "Hey, can we have Tommy Lee Jones play the other, the person against me, the FBI agent?" and he got nominated for an Oscar for that movie, which I think is great. And like I said, one cool thing is Tong Po's in Bloodsport. He actually plays the guy who gets his leg broken. Michelle Kesey, who was actually best friends with Jean-Claude Van Damme growing up. Paco from that's in Bloodsport is actually Apache from Blood In, Blood Out. He's
Yeah.
actually a real multi fighter, which I thought is kind of cool. Um, the Jean-Claude Van Damme's big splits where he punches the guy in the nuts is actually what inspired Mortal Kombat's Johnny Cage. That was taken from this movie. He does the split 7 times in this movie, so it has a lot of, like, stuff that Van Damme is known for in Bloodsport. It's kinda spawned off the Van Damme lore. Uh, for the 2 actors, just a little couple things. As a lead, Jean-Claude Van Damme has made $566 million, but as a supporting cast member, he's made $2.4 billion in terms of revenue for his movies. Seagal, on the other hand, as a lead, has made $722 million. A lot less movies, but Seagal has a better box office. The thing is, though, Seagal hasn't been everything for he's doing is being released to video right
It's
now.
straight to video.
Um, and then any movies that we haven't talked about, Swole, that you wanna get out there between the 2?
I mean, there's a lot of freaking movies that Seagal has made that I've never seen because they went right to video. I'm kind of the opposite of you. I don't make a lot of notes for these shows. I kind of go with just what I know. But like looking at the stuff that Seagal has sent right to video, it's like there's like 40 movies that have went like direct to video.
Yeah, for Seagal, like, I have 3 movies of each. Just for Seagal, Into the Sun is a straight to video movie that I thought it was okay. It's him as a contractor. It's based in Japan. I
Yeah.
thought it was a good movie. The Glimmer Man, which you touched on with Keenan Ivory Wayans, which I thought was okay. And
See, I
then
think I think that was the one where we should have had that in there.
yeah, and then Deadly Contract, which the only reason I know that one is because he fights Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
With
Now, in terms of, I'm sorry, go ahead, buddy.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
In terms of Van Damme, like there's also a lot of like direct to video movies, but like The Quest is one that like we didn't necessarily talk about. Legionnaire was one that we didn't talk about, but I think the one that we should talk about or that should get an honorable mention was JCVD.
Yes, and I was gonna mention that one. JCVD is, so, like I said, Steven Seagal is an action star, like, but JCVD to me showed that about Jean-Claude Van Damme could be more than an action star. It's a serious role, although there is some action in it. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend. Ebert gave it a thumbs up for it. He gave it, I think, like 2.5 to 3 stars for it. He thought it was a good movie, and it's like more of it takes like all the things that JCVD went in terms of his life, his addiction to him almost being broke, and it kind of adds that and like kind of like a play on himself in the movie. He plays himself, but it's like a more Hollywood version of himself. And like I love that movie. I love his monologue. I watched it in French with subtitles to get the more feeling of it instead of American subtitle translated, dubbed, I mean. But I really enjoy
Yeah.
that movie, and I highly recommend anybody to watch that one.
Here's some things that like baffle me, right? In 1988, he was nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award as the worst new star for Bloodsport. Now Jean-Claude Van Damme deserves a lot of the bullshit that he gets because he had an ego. He wasn't always easy to work with. He did a crap ton of cocaine. But worst new star for Bloodsport?
Yeah,
Like
that's just
that's
them
bizarre.
hating.
And then 3 or 4 years later, MTV Movie Award nominee for Most Desirable Male for 3 years in a row. Double Impact, Nowhere to Run, and Hard Target. And then in 1988, he was nominated for another Golden Raspberry for the worst screen couple with Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, oh my god. Man,
I
the
don't
Golden
know.
Raspberry, like, I mean, a lot of people are gonna be up for his Golden Raspberries. Stallone was up for him, Schwarzenegger was up for him. It's like, but when to me, like, although Seagal won in terms of the movies we discussed, I always like even The Simpsons said it best. Like people go see the Schwarzeneggers, they go see the Stallones, and sometimes they go see the less, popular one, the Van Dams. And like Van Damme is always that third person in that trilogy of people that was like growing up the action star in my lifetime. At least I think so. Like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think Steven Seagal did a really good job of alienating himself from Hollywood and a lot of these things. And I think like yeah, like you hear his name and you hear the things that he's done. And I'm not gonna lie, like we're still here looking at this we're looking at this slide in this PowerPoint presentation, Bloodsport versus Under Siege. I'm like, did I make the right choice? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I did. Like, I'm gonna stick with it, but like Bloodsport's iconic. Like at this point, it's iconic, and
Yeah.
it's ingrained in pop culture. And like they all have their place in time, and I think they're great. Yeah, the '80s were different, man.
Totally different. Like, but these are like our two biggest, action stars that are not Stallone and Schwarzenegger. And I that's one thing I did like about the Expendables is they had all them together. I would like Seagal to be in one of those, but I mean, I don't know what Seagal's doing in his life. Like, I
He lives
remember,
in Russia now, man, and he's like a
yeah,
Putin apologist.
and
Also, Expendables 3 had Kelsey Grammer. You thought I was joking about it earlier,
I
but they
know it
brought in
did,
Kelsey Grammer.
but it's also a PG-13 movie, so
It is.
Expendables 4 is supposed to have. I don't know what the hell they're doing with that series, but
Who knows?
Seagal also went through this phase where like I think on the Glimmer Man, he didn't want to kill somebody. Like in the script, they're like, Steven, you have to kill this guy. He's like shooting people. He's like, oh, I don't know if I should kill him because my aura is telling me not to do so. And the director's like, what?
It's
Like
almost like Steven Seagal doesn't know what he wants to be, right? Like he went and he did On Deadly Ground, and that was like he got to do On Deadly Ground because he agreed to do an Under Siege sequel. But that was when he was really into, and I mean this like I don't mean this in a bad way, but he was really into Native American culture and
Mhm.
like but he changes based on like what's popular or what's current. He doesn't know what he wants to be.
But then like he's close with the Dalai Lama too. Like
Yeah,
he's out there, man. Like
he's a strange bird.
yeah, I mean Van Damme's no different. That's very strange too. But like Seagal, he's out there. But like I said, final tally: Seagal 4, Van Damme 3 with 3 ties. So we have to give this one up to Seagal, which I thought was very surprising. Let us know what you guys think in the comments in the video, or tweet us at Lil Yumper or at Swole or at Yumper in the show on Twitter. Um, but with that, let's do our coming soon. So you want to announce our stuff?
Yeah, so we're gonna take a week off next week, or the next 2 weeks. Um, one for the Super Bowl because neither of us want to record during the Super Bowl, and because we have an event with, um, I don't, are they the sexiest guys on White Sox Twitter? But the
Maybe.
Chicago Sports Bums. We have our crossover event with those guys. Those guys are hilarious. I'm gonna need those stickers, by the way, guys. If you're watching this or listening to this, you guys hinted out at some stickers. I'm gonna need some of those. But we're very, very excited for this event. It's gonna be at the Relish Room at 6:15, which is attached to the Wiener Circle. You can watch us record. You can get drinks at the bar, and then after that, we're gonna go over to the Burwood Tap for drinks. And I think we're gonna have a pretty decent crowd, Yump.
Yeah, so we already had some people saying they're coming for it. I think we should have a nice little crowd. It's gonna be a live podcast. I don't know if we're gonna record it or not. So this will probably be our recorded episode.
Yeah,
But
this is gonna be like it's gonna be like the hidden episode that only the people that were in attendance could hear.
yeah, so
There's
be
gonna
sure
be
to come
bootlegs
out.
made of this.
Yeah, be sure to come out. It's gonna be a good time. We got some fun stuff planned, including some interaction with the people there. But on top of that, we also have a awesome show planned the next week after that. So we're gonna do back-to-back shows with um Arthur Aggie of Hoop Dreams, who's gonna join us, and we're gonna talk Hoop Dreams. We're gonna talk his 5 favorite sports films. It's gonna be a blast. I'm really looking forward to that. Hoop Dreams is based in Chicago. One of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. Um,
Roger Ebert said that it should have been nominated for Best Picture in 1994, not just Best Documentary. It's one of my favorite movies. This is a big deal for me to get Arthur Agee on here. I can't tell you how many times I watched Hoop Dreams.
Same.
Like
So
I must have watched that movie 100 times because it was like there's these kids that just had a dream and they wouldn't stop working towards it. Obstacles and like just a good real story and a great representation of the city of Chicago, I think. And I'm very, very excited about that.
yeah, it's a great story. Well, it's a sad story, but it's just shows you like the trials and tribulations people go through to make it in pro sports and how hard it is to make it. Arthur Aggie's awesome to even like we reached out to him. He reached back out to us, so we have it coordinated to do some stuff with him, which I think is awesome. Really looking forward to that episode. So that will be the following week. So that'll be the 23rd or the 26th. We're doing it. I think we're doing it 26th, right?
Yeah, I
So
think
that'll
it's
be
the 26th.
so 26th of February, we will be doing the Hoop Dreams episode. And before we bounce out to Swole's final thought, don't forget that we do have a merch store. Um, you can check us out at thetaintedglove.com where we have a slide there for merch. Just
There's a
click
pretty
on
sweet
that.
tank top available there, I
Yeah,
heard.
yeah, it's a pretty sweet tank top of Swole on there. Magnificent Stan just released a nice shirt of "I Hate It Here" that's getting some sales.
It's pretty
Uh,
popular.
yeah, it's got some Yumper and Swole shirts, some Getting Drafty stuff merch there, some Tainted Glove merch there, and a whole bunch of ballyhoo that's on there. Um, check it out, and if you like, support us. Everything just goes straight into the show. Oh, what was that?
Oh,
That was a Sopranos thing. Yeah, everything goes straight into the show, and we really appreciate. And with that, guys, before Swole gets to his final thought, thank you so much for watching. We're really excited that I met Swole like a year ago. We've been doing this for like a year now, and we're already 26 episodes in, which we're powering through. We got a lot of good, cool stuff planned for the future. This is going to be a fun year, and we're happy to be doing it for season 2. And it's all thanks to you guys for just listening and tuning in. So, with that, Swole, you want to give us your final thought?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Yumper told me I need to I need to make a promo yesterday, and I was in my Batman room. I was a little under the weather. And so when I was under the weather, I decided to watch Batman Begins. And it made me realize there's a lot of talk about who's the best Batman. Some people say it's Michael Keaton, but after watching Batman Begins for the umpteenth time, like I'm definitively going to say that Christian Bale is the best Batman that there is. And that trilogy is the definitive Batman trilogy. That's really all I was thinking about. I have no greater, grand, brilliant thought other than I love Batman. And Christian Bale is the best Batman. And I think that shut up, Brian. I think that if James Gunn was smart, he would throw a blank check at Christopher Nolan to get Bale under the cowl and cape one more time to make a 4th Batman movie with Nolan behind the helm. And with that, guys, it's been a great episode. I can't believe we spent an hour talking about Van Damme and Seagal movies, but it was fun. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, February 18th, live from the Relish Room. Deuces.